glorified
What do you
bodies.
think heaven is?
It's a good question. So some, I guess, I haven't read on this a whole lot. I'm just saying.
We are not read.
We're not experts.
Experts here. Don't listen to us.
There's a passage in Isaiah.
But like, subscribe, follow.
Like, subscribe, follow.
Comment.
There's a passage in Isaiah, like somewhere in the 50s or 60s, Isaiah chapters, painting the New Jerusalem. Some think that that's a vision of the new heavens and the new earth, and it depicts, ships of talks about ships of Tarshish, like hauling, riches and spices and herbs and whatever else. Rebecca's calling you.
Love you. Bye.
So.
Oh, I love my wife.
Anyway, the New Jerusalem passage in Isaiah. I guess if I had to take a stance, like that's what I think heaven would be like.
What, ships and spices?
No, but like in the sense that there is a civilization in heaven.
What do you mean in heaven? What is heaven? Where is heaven? Yeah.
Somewhere above the earth.
Oh, really? Weird. Go on. Where do you get
Somewhere
that?
in the
Where do you get that
spiritual
from?
realm.
Where are you getting this from? You think there's ships and spices in the like higher dimensions?
I think that there's a civilization.
Okay, but where? We're not talking about what's on or in heaven. Where is heaven?
Bro, you're asking me questions that I don't know the answer to.
Well, think about it. Live on
It's
Menace the
in
Menace.
the
Thinking.
heavenlies. Heaven is in the heavenlies.
And that's where we're going to spend eternity?
Yes.
Good questions, huh? Okay.
Yes.
Revelation also describes the New Jerusalem. And it says it comes down from heaven onto earth. The civilized, and it talks about God destroying the heavens and the earth and creating new heavens, new earth, right? And then it says the New Jerusalem comes down to this new heaven, new earth. And that's where it says that there's going to be nations and kings and kingdoms and gates, and people will come in and out of the New Jerusalem and go out and bring gifts.
Will be there?
Not Bill. Don't cancel us. So there's this conception or misconception people have in their heads that we're going to be like up in heaven in some other dimension,
just like floating around in clouds,
on clouds and with
harps.
like harps. Okay. And little fat angels. That's not what the Bible describes at all. It describes a new heaven and a new earth, and that humanity will for eternity be on earth without sin and with Jesus in the New Jerusalem.
Facts.
in this big cube, this 1,300-mile cube that comes from the sky. Bro, read
Facts,
Revelation 21 if you don't believe me and you're Christian.
I do believe you.
Look at this. You see this square? Oh my gosh.
What about the square?
This is so hard because the image is mirrored, so I don't know which way to go. This is the new heaven.
That square.
This is the New Jerusalem right here.
Oh, like that new Arabian
oh my
city?
gosh, have you seen that thing?
Yeah.
We could do screen share, but I'm not going to because I'm going to break something.
Talk about it some other time.
So anyway, that's the new heaven, new earth.
Yeah.
It's just a new earth. So when you talk about ships and spices and nations and kings and gifts being brought to Jesus in the New Jerusalem, it talks about the tree of life. It talks about rivers. It talks all that stuff. It's literally just it's a revamping of the Adamic state. What God created with Adam and Eve in the garden is what he intended for humanity.
Yeah.
And that's what he's going to recreate. And he has to undo and delete heaven and earth and redo it completely. And then I guess, I don't know. And then I guess our souls re-inhabit new bodies or something. Adam and Eve had to have had souls, right?
Sure.
So then our souls just like re-inhabit bodies? And that's a good question, since we're on the topic. Do our souls stop inhabiting bodies at the point of death and then are in a waiting place, like Catholics believe about purgatory and that kind of stuff, until they get bodified?
Well, if the resurrection of Jesus Christ is any indicator, and I think that it is,
that's a good indicator,
then we'll be raised to life immediately.
It would be immediate.
In something resembling the same body that we had just a second ago, but with new capabilities, or with different capabilities.
Well, then the question is, did Adam and Eve have those same capabilities? Because if he's reconnecting, or not reconnecting, what's it called when you like redo something? I can't think of this word.
Whatever, when you redo it. Go ahead.
When you're redoing your initial intent with Adam and Eve, that's what God's doing, right? And Adam and Eve were in the state of sinlessness in the garden with Jesus. Jesus was there, which is what we get again at the end, right? In Revelation 21. Were they able to appear, disappear, go through walls? I don't know, bro. I've heard this argument often about we're going to be like Jesus and have those capabilities because he's our best indication of the transfigured bodies, right? But we don't really have examples of anyone but Jesus doing those things.
We have examples of the transfiguration, which is where Elijah and Moses show up.
Okay.
And they just show up and they're talking and they're in their human form because, the Bible identifies it as such. So beyond Jesus, we have those two figures in the glorified body. So I guess that to me is enough to suggest that, we'll have a glorified body that will be something resembling pretty closely, at least in the way that you perceive it, the bodies that we had while we were on an earthly life.
Yeah, but even Moses and Elijah, when they came, I almost feel like they could have just been any appearance, like when an angel appeared. An angel's not like a physical being that got his body back. You know what I mean? An angel appeared when it says it looked like a man, right? Abraham, when angels came to him, they were walking by and he's like, hey, don't walk by. Like he knew they were angelic, but they looked like human. Right, they looked like men.
We're not saying different things.
So I think Moses and Elijah had like that constitution.
We're not saying different things. I'm basically saying that the glorified body is a state that you can appear in something like a normal human body. Like you have that capability. Whether you can turn it off or on, I don't know.
But that was my question. So is our glorified body going to be closer to Christ's after his death and resurrection, or is it going to be closer to Adam and Eve's?
I don't know.
See what I'm saying?
I don't know, but let's rationalize this. I think, rationalism doesn't get you far, which is why I can't wait to heaven, right? Like we'll understand all these things.
Yeah.
Well, like it'll be beyond
thought experiments.
It'll be beyond understanding. This is what we were talking about when you said stop. I think that the glorified body is something that can transcend dimensions.
Okay.
Right? It can go between 2 and 3D and beyond.
Okay.
Which is why I think it looks like the glorified body can look like a human body and at the same time not respect the laws of physics. Right? Like Jesus, after his resurrection, went and ate fish. I think it says that. You can fact check me right now if you want to. But
I believe you.
I think it says that he ate with them. He ate with the disciples. And at the same time, either he appeared instantly in the room where the disciples were gathered, or he was seen to as though go through the wall.
I think he just appeared.
Right. So he just appeared.
Yeah.
So, the question now is, well, is that a capability that's limited to, Christ as the Son of God.
Not only Christ, but a spiritual entity, right? Because Adam and Eve were human.
Right.
Christ, after death, was a spiritual, but he was also physical.
That's what I'm saying.
So it's both.
So exactly. So it's both. And the only other people, which is what I'm saying, the only other people that share Jesus's glorified body capabilities are Moses and Elijah, who appeared at the Transfiguration. Or the only other people, right, that we can identify in history. The fact that there were other angels who interacted with mankind, like, is that here?
I don't know what that was. No, I think it might have been in there.
Right. The fact that there were, and I'm not talking about angels that appeared, let's say, for example, to Abraham, and where the Bible says you might have, who knows, you might have entertained angels unawares. I'm not talking about that. Angels that were always, assigned to the spiritual dimension that have the capacity of taking human-like form. I'm talking about people that were alive and born into a body and then died. Those are the three figures.
That's curious too, though. How the heck did the apostles know that was Moses and Elijah? They've never seen them. They died hundreds of years before them.
I mean, the cop-out, easy explanation would be that, through the inspiration of the Holy Spirit, but...
You see what I'm saying?
I mean, the Holy Spirit would have had to impress upon their understanding that the figures they're observing is Elijah and Moses. Or it's very possible that even though they don't document a transcript of the conversation Jesus had at the Transfiguration moment with Elijah and Moses, it's very possible that the apostles who recorded this event, who were listening into the conversation, heard Elijah and Moses say things that are ascribed in their Pentateuch to Elijah and Moses, or Pentateuch is Moses, whatever books came after, that they would have discerned as the words of Elijah. So it's possible that that's one way that the Holy Spirit impressed upon them that the figures they were perceiving were Moses and Elijah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nevertheless, the point still stands, and the point that I'm trying to make is, it seems like one of the capabilities of the glorified body that we'll have is an ability to transcend dimensions.
I like the thought. I used to think that too. I'm just literally now on the spot realizing that this concept of the glorified body, which is what most Christians believe, isn't adding up with my views on what like eternity in the new heaven, new earth, new Jerusalem is going to be like. Because that's pretty clear. Like there's not really any argument against new heaven, new earth, new Jerusalem. That's all of chapter 21 and the chapters you were talking about in Isaiah that describe that.
Facts.
Now, that is a reestablishing, that's what the word was, a reestablishing of the Adamic. So that's a reestablishing of the Adamic order, right? That's what we believe God is doing in human history, at the end of human history. He'll remake the heavens and the earth like Adam and Eve had the Garden of Eden. That's what all of humanity is going to experience. That was his intent. Do you know that they were told to reproduce and fill the earth before they sinned?
Yeah.
His intent was for humanity to live in the Garden of Eden in the state of Adam and Eve with himself present on earth for eternity. That was his intent. So he is going to fulfill that. Okay. And if that's his goal for humanity, does he then give all of humanity in the new heaven, new earth this ability to start transcending dimensions just because he did after he resurrected? You see what I'm saying? So it's, for me, it's not adding up. So
does he give all of
so does he give all of humanity on this new heaven, new earth, this ability to start transcending dimensions at will, even though that's not what was intended for Adam and Eve? You see what I'm saying? So we know what eternity is. New heaven, new earth, new Jerusalem, right? And that's where humanity is going to be. We also know Jesus's transfigured body and what that looked like post-resurrection. We are those dots that need to be connected, even though Adam and Eve did not have those abilities.
That's what you're saying. It can be both. It's conceivable that the way God intended it initially was the relationship that we read about in Genesis, where Adam walked with God in the cool of the day.
Mm-hmm.
This sort of uninhibited, side-by-side intimacy. However, the order of things was destabilized by the entry of sin into that order. So God can have it both ways. God can reestablish that initial intended intimacy in a new template, in a new order of things. And maybe this new order of things being an ability to transcend dimensions.
But what's the purpose of that? If Jesus is already here on earth in the New Jerusalem, it says it will be his house. That's the Shaq's house.
For sure.
You know what I mean? Where are we going? Why are there ships if we could transcend dimensions? Wouldn't you just like take your spice and pop in and out? Where are you taking spices? Like I personally think, and this is happening in real time. Thoughts happening in real time.
Here, okay, go ahead. Then I'll share with you.
I personally think it's just going to be the Adamic state again, and it's just going to be God's original order reconstituted on earth, and himself present. Okay. Dude, it even says that the tree of life will be present. This is a trip. It says the tree of life will be present and the nations will come in to partake of the tree of life. And if you remember in the garden, it says we need to kick Adam and Eve out of the garden. Otherwise, they're going to eat of the tree of life and live forever. You have to eat of the tree of life to live forever. Like they did, we will. You know what I mean? Do you think Jesus, after his transfigured body, or Moses and Elijah, do you think they had to eat of the tree of life to live forever? I don't think so. You know what I mean? So there's like little details that to me, I'm starting to not think we're going to have like the same abilities as Jesus.
So let's keep
resurrection.
So let's keep that. Let's keep everything that you just said and create like a little addition to that. We'll just add on to that. You know how we were listening earlier, to the lecture I had on, the guy said we are souls and we have bodies.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Looking at Jesus, he descended from heaven to earth and proved that it's possible to live a life of righteousness.
Mm-hmm.
What if, in addition to what you said, God took the effects of sin and made it so that he gets doubly glorified by adding within us the capacity to transcend dimensions, so that we are now souls who become residents of another realm where he is, with the ability of our souls to transcend dimensions and take residence in human bodies that now live in the exact order that you just depicted.
Yeah, but that's so much.
Isn't so. I don't think it's so much. I think
you're trying to meld the two, right?
I'm trying to meld.
You're trying to meld the Adamic state with Jesus's transfigured body, glorified body.
Yeah,
right?
I think there's something to that. Otherwise, Jesus wouldn't have had a glorified body. Otherwise, Jesus would have just gone straight to heaven. I think there's something to the glorified body that will have in a certain measure that Christ had it after he resurrected. And I think that's where the two meld together. What would glorify God more than to show the civilization of hell and darkness and to also show the civilization of angels that never were corrupted and that honored him forever, to show that there is this other race that God created that can go between realms and still pledge full and complete allegiance to him.
Yeah, we just don't have that much detail.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we're speculating, which is fine. I'm thinking out loud too. The only thing is, again, those abilities to appear, disappear, right?
Mm-hmm.
To transcend dimensions, all that could very easily be, because guess what? Elijah and Moses, when they came down, they didn't have to be like physical. I don't think they ate. I don't think they, you know what I mean? It could have been like, and guess what? They also didn't linger. They didn't stay around.
Sure, but it was enough.
They appeared, did their work, and bounced.
But it was enough to perceive them as having human bodies.
I don't know if it says anything about human bodies.
It was enough to perceive them as having human form.
Yeah.
It was enough to identify them as
that
personification.
That's another thing to realize. There's something about spirit and body that when spirits exist here on earth, they're temporary. They come and go.
How do you mean?
Well, I shouldn't say spirits. When like a spiritual being appears here on earth, angelic or other, they come and go. They don't linger. They have a set task. They can appear in human form. They could appear in crazy form, wheels within wheels, with eyes, with heads of lions, you know? They appear, do their work, and disappear. They don't linger. The only one that lingered is Jesus for 33 years. But guess what? He had to freaking be born. He had to go through the process, be a child, be a toddler, be an adolescent, be an adult.
Can you show me any like justification for why you think they don't linger?
Can you show me any example of one that did?
Well, dude, it's not on me to disprove it. It's on you to prove it if you made a claim.
Okay. Moses, Elijah.
Okay.
The wheels within wheels, the entertained angels, the ones that came and went to Abraham and then went to Lot. They all are here for a moment. They accomplish a task and they bounce. That's not going, and listen, some of those appeared as humans, right? Human form. Once they're done, they bounce.
Okay.
Now, us and Jesus too, after his resurrection, did his thing, bounced. You know what I mean? Post-resurrection, in the new heaven, new earth, where we are for eternity, I don't think we're bouncing. Like, where are we going? I think that's the state we exist in and the place we exist in. And there's nowhere for us to go. Where are we going? Why do we need to transcend into the heavenly realms? To accomplish what? Jesus is already here. You see what I'm saying? These guys might have ascended back to Jesus. Jesus is with us on earth in his throne room. And it says the nations come in to worship him. Where are we going? To the Father? I don't know about that. You see what I'm saying? There's these details, bro. Thoughts with Bennis and Adam live on Bennis the Menace, happening in real time.
Just to hop on
things you've probably never thought about and now tuned out.
just to hop on this, like, spirits are here only temporarily to achieve a certain objective. Okay, I'm not disagreeing with you, but what do you do then with passages like in Job where God asks, Satan, where are you coming from? And he's just like, oh, I've just been roaming the earth. And then God was the one that gave him a task to do, because before that, he didn't really have anything to do. He was just like, okay, God, I've just been...
Have you read Unseen Realm?
No.
You should.
I know, broad strokes, like whatever his viewpoints on it, but not particularly with that passage.
Okay, so Michael Heiser, Unseen Realm, great book, highly recommended. He shows how, like, through the Jewish history and their folklore and other documentations, blah, 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 including a lot of biblical passages, that Satan is a title given to a specific entity.
Exactly. That's why I'm saying it.
That had the task of performing
Okay.
Similar temptations
Okay.
or whatnot on behalf of God.
Okay.
So this deity, Satan, would go out and find people
Yeah.
that God would tempt.
Okay, I got you.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or test, not tempt. That was that particular figure, Satan's job. We connect the dots between Satan and Lucifer. It might not necessarily be the same thing.
Yeah.
We also connect the dots between Satan and the serpent in the garden.
Right.
Might not be the same thing.
Right.
Okay.
They're not necessarily the same figure.
Right.
It's just a title that there could be multiple entities.
Right.
With that same function, you know, it's just like having a job, right? Like there are, for example, you know, you're the director of sales at Bank of America, but you can be the director of sales at like JP Morgan or another bank or another financial institution, right? Like there are multiple of these guys out there doing the same thing. It's not necessarily one entity.
Yeah. And think about it. So the Satan goes and does this thing to Job, right? I mean, it's horrible. Kids die, family, health, everything's gone, right? In the end, he's blessed tenfold.
Right.
So the result of him going through that thing, which was bad, that the Satan did to him, right? God gets to use for good and bless him tenfold. And then you get passages in the New Testament where it says, "Count it pure joy when you are tried and tribulation comes and da-da-da-da-da, because it produces da-da-da-da-da," you know? So we see it as like bad things happening to him, but in God's eyes, it's for a good reason.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. That's a good question though. Is God one of those beings that's like a means to an end kind of guy? Bad things for good reasons. You know what I mean? It's rough. I don't want to go there. Ben is the Menace, Tidy Whitey's Acid House at your next convention.